Hi there, it's Alexandra from the Middlesized Garden YouTube channel and blog, and I'm here with garden designer Arit Anderson, who's also a presenter of BBC Gardener's World, and we're going to talk about where you find inspiration for your garden design, because you may think you're not influenced by fashion, but Arit has a background in fashion, so we're going to talk about how that influences you. And as we're here at the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew, we're going to talk about how visiting famous gardens can really influence your garden and what you can take away from a famous garden. Arit explains how the influences on your garden could broadly be described as fashion or trends, but they go beyond what you buy and break down into how people live today and feel now. Amongst the areas that she considers as being good for garden design inspiration are garden shows and the great professional gardens, global issues and personal issues such as health.
With regards to fashion, it influences so much of what we do. Fashions come in garden design, fashions come in clothing, fashion comes in film. In fact, fashion's in everything we do. And really that's talking about what's the trend of now, to be honest. So from a clothing perspective, fashion and gardens have been long intertwined. If you look at, especially when I used to work in the fashion industry, we'd be very much looking at floral prints, botanical prints. There's always been, you can go back hundreds and hundreds of years at tapestries, and there's always been this interaction between the garden and therefore clothing as well. I think with regards to fashion, I mean, one of the pinnacle places that we go to are the big shows that are on Chelsea, Hampton Court, Chatsworth, etc. And that's really there for designers to showcase their work. But what you tend to see across the shows are trends and fashions that are coming through. Now, all of those designers that are there, they certainly don't share their ideas, but we are able to see, oh, look, this year, for example, at Chelsea, it was very much about the tree. The tree was much more celebrated than flowers, and a lot of the gardens were less floriferous than ever, and it was all about the colour green. Even if those gardens that were showing flowers, they were the green and white, the cooler palettes, and therefore there is a trend. Now, it might seem really ridiculous because obviously trees have been on the planet long before us, but the whole thing about trend, and to not be worrying about it, is all about what's going on now, what catches our eye now. Trees are always there, but now they're very dominant for us because we understand much more than ever their importance for fighting the environment and planetary issues.
Arit has also identified global issues and personal elements such as health as being drivers in how our gardens look today.
It's about what's going on around us in the wider environment. At the moment, we're very conscious of the fact that our world is under a lot of pressure, losing habitats for wildlife, climate change, environmental damage that we're doing as humans, and those bigger, really wide impacts are beginning to affect how we think about our gardens. So at the moment, wildlife gardens, which I'm sure a lot of people say, oh, well, I've always thought of wildlife, but for somebody that maybe is only more recently come into having a space, they may have really, the first normal in to a garden is visually. Okay, so by having these wider issues that are going on, people are beginning to realise, well, I can't just make the garden look good. I've got to also think what I call, who are the other guests coming. Obviously, at the moment, we're very aware that there's a lot of mental ill health as issues. So we're finding that people, when they're gardening, they're really being able to feel that actually, yeah, my gardening's doing something good for me. It's not just something that I just go out and tinker with or that my granny does anymore, that they're actually seeing the benefits. And so you're seeing a lot more spaces that are being created for meditation and for introspection and quieter parts of the garden, not just the entertaining and the place to put the trampoline.
When it comes to great gardens, I always used to think that with their great acres of space and their talented, experienced gardeners, then they could achieve things that were just way out of anything that I could achieve in my middle-sized garden. But actually, Arit has explained that there are both psychological reasons why visiting a great garden can help your garden, as well as practical advice.
I mean, coming to a space like Kew Gardens or any of the wonderful grand gardens in the UK, they are so inspiring. First and foremost, it's about getting out into the wider space. And sometimes when our own garden, we can feel a little bit overwhelmed, what to do next, you know, making the right choice and really worried about that small patch of that in our backyard. But by coming to a larger space, immediately you can breathe and relax. And then you can start taking in the view of what you're seeing. You'll see a really poignant tree that's, you know, maybe it's taken 100 years to grow, but the point of that is that you'll then be able to understand the benefit of how a tree might come into your space. And I think what I do, certainly at somewhere like Kew, they have these fantastic long borders. And what they have done actually when they've reinvented them is they've actually put out little planting plans with all of the plant names there. And that's invaluable because it means that actually you can literally take a small slice of what you like and transpose that back into your own space. So it's almost like when you go to a larger garden, I like to look in vignettes, if you like. I kind of, first of all, I might want to look at, you know, waterside plants, if that's what my interest is in. Often there'll be a place to see shady plants. There might be a really naturalistic space. So you can start to break it down and identify an area that could just maybe be your patch, could just be your garden.
So how do you put all this inspiration from the garden shows, from the great gardens, from what's going on around you, and how do you actually put together your own garden? Arit has some advice.
Same with a garden, putting together your garden, you know, you start with your anchor, which would be your trees, your tree story, you know, your one real focal piece that will be within the space. And that's going to be able to really anchor the space. You've got to make sure you choose the right tree, obviously for your position, right soil, for the right aspects. And a tree is going to bring in the shade and cooling aspects into your garden, as well as a bit of grandeur. And then he needs some friends, that tree. So underneath that is what we then have the shrub layer. And the shrub layers, if you like, is the fillers. That's kind of like my jumpers, if you like, you know, that can come in and add some structure to the department, I almost said then, to the garden. And in that instance, that would be a suit, for example. So, you know, I need to know that sort of structure that I would have under it. And then comes the perennials, my blouses, my t-shirts, my tops. I can be very playful with, and they can bring in colour, they can change on a yearly or an annual basis. And that's what, if you like, brings the wardrobe of the garden to life. So then you have the annuals, which kind of, you know, we're not really into throwaway fashion at the moment, but those annuals that come into the garden, you know, they can really add a bit of pizzazz.
Until Arit suggested that we meet at Kew Gardens, I had not visited it for years, and I had some vague idea that the Royal Botanic Gardens at Kew would be about places you went to for important lectures or school visits, and I really had not realised how brilliant it is now. And Arit showed me round and showed me that actually the Botanic Gardens today are fabulous places to visit, either for relaxation or for education or for inspiration. And I just adored the way you could see the traditional borders and then the contemporary borders, to see fantastic sculpture in situ. It's all very well signposted, and it's a very friendly and inclusive atmosphere. So I know a lot of you don't live in the UK or don't live in England, but if you're making a visit to the London area and you love gardens, I would warmly recommend visiting the Kew Botanic Gardens. There are links in the description below to Arit Anderson's garden design company, Diamond Hill, and also to BBC Gardeners' World programme. And if you've enjoyed this, do please hit like, because then I'll know you'd like more garden design tips. And do let me know what else you'd like me to do a video on in the garden world in the comments below. And do subscribe to the Middlesized Garden YouTube channel. We come out weekly with tips, ideas and inspiration for your garden.